And welcome to the daily space weather. We're looking at the sun on 171 angstroms here, which is my personal favorite wavelength. Not a lot going on the solar disk, no sunspots, no coronal holes in the Earth-facing regions. There is a little bit of magnetic activity going on. We'll look at it in a minute, but first, let's zoom in. Here's the north. And here's the south. It's not a completely inactive sun, but it's a little on the inactive side. Not as inactive as it was a month ago, that's for sure. Here's the magnetic environment. And we do see some spots of organization kicking off around here, and some plages south of the equator also. X-ray flux is totally flatlined. Whoops, there we go. And here's the GOES X-ray imager. Not a lot going on there. A little bright spot there in the southwestern portion. Not sending a lot of X-rays our way to that GOES 14. Real-time solar wind is next. And we see a recently shifting phi angle here the last couple of hours. The last 2 hours or so, we see the phi angle shifting around. And we see the solar wind density all over the place. It got as high as at least 20 or so protons per cubic centimeter. And solar wind, and anyway, the current solar wind density is about 2.2 protons per cubic centimeter, and the solar wind speed 330 or so. And there's the data from ACE looking quite similarly. Here's the geospace magnetosphere movie. We were a little late in getting the video out today, so we're going to make this one a little shorter. And that refreshed. Let's let that play through. To show a very weak magnetosphere, really. Not a lot of magnetohydrodynamic pressure there at all. And quite a steady and homogeneous flow, really. Slightly greater magnetohydrodynamic pressure in the magnetotail region. Here are the geospace ground perturbations, and as you'd expect, not too exciting there, as not a whole lot of current is getting induced by things like protons and their interaction with the magnetosphere. And this is refreshing and it's annoying, so we're just going to skip it. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is still at 70, and that's a good thing. We drew a line in there at 70 for that orange line there, you can see, just to show you kind of where we expect things to be at solar minimum. GOES magnetometer is still looking spiky, as forecasted, and the environment is still trying to decide which pole will be charging the current sheet. Here you can see the Gong 2 data. This is 1 hour and 38 minutes old, showing you what is going on with the current sheet's magnetism. Let's look at the last frame. Currently looking solidly in the South Pole oriented portion, shown here in red. Just keep in mind, magnetic environments can change with no warning. KP index is back down to 0. So let's look at cosmic rays real quick. Here's the Apatity neutron monitor. Nothing too exciting there, and there's Barentsburg. Next, here's Athens, Greece. Looks like they had some missing data there around Halloween. And the largest spike was just before that, actually. And here's the last 30 days at Mexico City's Cosmic Ray Observatory. And this is one of the observatories where you can look at older data. Here's Moscow. And they've been failing to return data here for about a week. And finally, the Oulu neutron monitor. There's that. Here's DOMC Antarctica. And there is DOMB Antarctica. We have left links to the Network of Cosmic Ray Station site below the video in the description. GOES electron flux is looking nominal. Relativistic electrons are just slightly above normal. Barely at alert levels. They were at 32,000, and the alert level is 1,000 about a week ago. Here's the ionosphere movie. This animation showing 6 hours of the ionosphere. And let's look at the latest image. It's just looking pretty normal here. Nothing too strange going on there. And earthquake rundown. The largest quake we saw the past 24 was a 6.5 at Fiji at extreme depth. Not a good sign for a larger quake at the surface near Fiji. So going back, let's see, just about 24 hours from the shooting of this video, which currently it's 5:07. That's Eastern Standard Time. So we see this 4.9 at the South Sandwich Islands, right below my head here. And then next is a 4.3 at Afghanistan, another deep quake there. That one at 209 kilometers, 4.3 magnitude. Here's that 6.5 at Fiji, 582 kilometers depth. Heads up Oceania, places like Fiji, New Zealand, Tonga, and Samoa for a larger quake at the surface there. Here's an aftershock at nearly the same depth, but a slightly lower magnitude. And that 6.5 came in at 10:44 UT yesterday morning. Next we see a 4.7 in Iran, as they do not need more quakes there, as I guess buildings crumbled with their last quake. 4.6 at East Timor, and that one's at 157 kilometers depth. Next we see a 5.1 in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. A 5.2 at Tonga is next. That one coming in at 1552 UT yesterday. Here's a 5.1 at the Philippines. Major uptick at the Philippines. Please leave a comment if you are viewing from anywhere in the Far East. Shout out David Dubai, and we're going to try to get you on Skype today. 4.9 at Russia is next. That one coming in at 21:03 last night. Near Japan, actually. Next is a 4.7 at Indonesia. That one at over 100 kilometers depth. Just after midnight UT, we see this triple junction quake here in the Indian Ocean. That one a 5.1 magnitude. As the 7 magnitude earthquake drought continues, folks. I'm not the leading expert on earthquakes or anything like that, but I do know that earthquake droughts end in earthquakes. If you're in a prone zone, please have a plan. Know which building facades might crumble as you try to exit yours, for instance. Have a bug-out bag. Stuff like that. Try to be an asset, not a liability. If you're wondering who the cavalry is, it's probably because it's you. Next, we see a 4.9 at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. That one coming in at 5:38 this morning, UT. This one coming in about 2 hours ago at Guatemala, a 5.6. That one at depth heads up Central America for a larger quake at the surface. That one at nearly 200 kilometers depth. And lastly, just as we started doing show prep, a 4.8 south of the Kermadec Islands, just north of New Zealand. Shout out Kiwis. Please leave a comment if you're viewing from Oceania, or please leave a comment, period. Next, we'll look at the pressure maps on windy.com. We'll let that advance. By the way, we did a beer review live stream last night. Check that out, youtube.com/smAsho. We didn't put that anyplace else. And there were some technical difficulties at the end caused by junkware. And we're not going to say the G word. Anyway, there's where pressure will be in about 24 hours. Now, let's talk about snow, as I got to see some yesterday, quite a bit. Do you follow me on Instagram? Instagram.com/smAsho. Check it out. Here's an area in between Wilkes-Barre and Mount Pocono on Route 476. A full coating happened yesterday, folks. A full coating. Snow falling on November 8th, folks. Anyway, we branded the Instagram page so that our viewers would realize that it's our page. And so check that out for some behind-the-scenes stuff and some exclusive material you'll only find there. I understand that it's a Facebook company and you might not like Facebook. You can still access the stuff. We make everything public there so everybody can view it. Let's do the volcano rundown. Mount Aso, back still on the list here, producing a 7,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima, 8,000-foot plume there. Karangatang, no, not orangutan. Karangatang, not orangutan. Not orangutan. Karangatang. Anyway, some effusive eruptions happening there. Incandescent rock falls and so on. So that one back on the list, having been on, I believe, 2 weeks ago or so. Sanjiang Api, intermittent eruptions producing a 10,000-foot plume. Mount Merapi exploding, 15,000-foot ash plume there. Tokono exploding, 6,000-foot plume there. Ravenador, low activity there. Sabancaya exploding, 27,000-foot ash plume. Copahu, continuous emissions in Nevados de Chilean exploding, producing a 14,000-foot ash plume. Please don't attempt to pole vault the caldera of Nevados de Chilean. And please don't get orangutans confused with karangatang. Are you ready for the Mercury Transit that's going to happen on the 11th? Are you ready for that? Well, we've left an article in the description from Universe Today. And this is a pretty comprehensive guide. It tells you all about the transits, the previous transits, the future transits. It's going to be a fantastic transit as the planet Mercury practically goes right across the sun's ecliptic. In fact, it actually does cross the ecliptic. And it's going to be almost a completely perpendicular transit there. It's going to slice almost all the way across the solar disk. Best place to view it is in Central South America, but we'll get a full view here on the east coast of the U.S. So get your gear together if you've got solar filter glasses, if you've got equipment to project the solar disk onto a piece of paper like this. It's got all the instructions on how to use a T-box to make a simple binocular solar filter out of your, if you have some eclipse glasses. Don't do it the wrong way, do it the right way, stare at the sun, use the proper instruments like solar filters. If you've got a telescope with solar filters, please take some footage and send it to us, and we will cover it. We're going to get into cosmology in a minute, briefly. First of all, let's look at where the planets are. There's where stuff is in the solar system. And there's where it'll be in 1 week. Again, the transit happening on 11/11. Super easy to remember, so get ready for that. Now let's talk about see the pattern, as Gareth brought up some interesting stuff that either escaped me or I just failed to realize it. And it has to do with the fact that Voyager 2 found what they called leaky plasma around the heliopause as it left the heliosphere. So check out this video from See the Pattern. Gareth doing a fine job, and this is an image of the solar wind dropping as galactic cosmic rays increase. So check that out. Possibly one of the theories is, and it's a good one, is that perhaps the difference in the plasma coming out of the heliosphere, the plasma leaking out, perhaps that was a thing associated with solar minimum, as Voyager 1 exited the heliosphere nearer to solar maximum. So let me just play a small quote.
The steep rise in the galactic cosmic rays. Its measurements of the interstellar magnetic field.
Anyway, watch the video from Gareth. Links in the description to that also. Shout out Gareth. And here's where stuff is above my head. It looks like Cygnus is about to rise. Check out in-the-sky.org. You can animate your own star map, just put in your zip code or whatever. And it looks like Deneb rises at about 8 a.m. where I am. Here's a lightning maps, courtesy lightningmaps.org. That's where the lightning's striking around the planet. Looks like some new storms kicking off in the eastern bloc. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar as it continues to snow in the north central U.S., Wisconsin and Michigan. Looks like some lake effect snow. Check out the incredible temperature anomaly chart for November 12th. Large swaths of Mexico and Texas are going to be 20 degrees Celsius below average temperature. In fact, 2/3 of the country is going to be around 12 degrees Celsius below average. It must be so hot that it's cold. Let's look at the water vapor map. And there are the current conditions. And when I say current, the pun is intentional. We see a massive chunk of dry air forming there in the south central U.S., and a long string of dry mass of air helping to deflect the jet stream as it dips way down into the south. And let's zoom in on that convergence zone once again. And there's that zone. Got some serious moisture building up there around northeastern Washington and northern Idaho, as well as central Montana. Check out all the parallel lines there, folks. Parallel lines perpendicular to the mode of travel of the water vapor. We call those Hall currents where I come from. Here are the state of the jet streams at null school. Extreme meridional jet stream flow. Check it out. We've got jet streams moving east to west here over the central Atlantic, right below this anticyclone. And so major doubled up jet stream there. They're probably going to be calling for, they're probably going to be talking about how hot it is in southern Greenland there, as there's some warm air going to be injected into southern Greenland. And check out the extreme flow in the south. They're probably going to be talking about Antarctica melting also. Let's look at the eastern world's jet streams before we move on. And there's the eastern world. Look at the extreme bends in the southern hemisphere. As well as doubled up and tripled up jet streams in the north. Thanks to our new subscribers, new patrons, etc. Now our patrons keep this channel afloat, as YouTube pays us precisely $0 for these videos. So please press like and subscribe. Please press like and subscribe. And please share on your social media. Now we are all over the internet on all kinds of various different sites. But again, the main one supporting this channel is Patreon, so check out patreon.com/smAshomash. Some of the posts we put up there are actually fully public posts. Some are time delayed, and we make sure that there's some exclusive content there for our patrons. Things like custom ringtones, some of the music that we play on the show, etc., in full volume. So check that out, patreon.com/smAshomash, the real associate producers of this show. And thanks again, patrons. Also, check us out on BitShoot. It could be an alternative to YouTube. And when we have trouble with YouTube, we typically upload the videos to BitShoot first. So check that out, bitshoot.com/smAshomash. By the way, you won't be censored or shadow banned there. So enjoy that. And here's the bonus segment. It's the sun at 335 angstroms. A wavelength we don't always use, but I like it. Anyway, there's the northern area, and here's the south. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. We will likely be back today with a second video, at least a second, perhaps even a third, but most likely another video will be coming out today. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks again, everybody, especially patrons, for funding the channel. And we need a lot more funding, as this operation is barely on the ground level. And there's all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes. So again, click those links in the description and help support the channel in any way you see fit. Stare at the sun. Don't drink it if you drink. Certainly don't drive. Please don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.